Welcome, everybody, to We Are the Game. I'm Michael. That's Luke. And this is our countdown to kickoff for the Arizona Cardinals for the 2025 season, which is right around the corner here in 2 weeks. We've been holding our breath to finally get here for months, and now we're here. So, Luke is the primary Cardinals fan in the room. So, I will ask him, what is it, other than the fact that we're here, that you are excited about coming up this season for the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, aside from it just being like 17, 18 days away, which seems like enough all on its own, there have been some glaring things that we've been asking since about week 18 of last year. It's like, what is next year going to look like? One of the biggest ones is Marvin Harrison Jr. He last year, in some ways, he had a disappointing year one. I think a lot of us were hoping for this electrifying 1,500 yard record, maybe not record breaking, but like record approaching kind of season like Jamar Chase had, Justin Jefferson, and some of these other guys. And we got 865 yards and 8 touchdowns. And it was kind of a letdown. That's actually a pretty good year one if you compare it to other Hall of Famers that he gets compared to, like Larry Fitzgerald and Marvin Harrison Jr. or Sr., the other one. And so, it's really not a bad season, but it was a little bit of a letdown for us fans who've been starved since Larry left, pretty much. But or I guess since DeAndre Hopkins left at the very least. So, getting into his year two, I am excited to see what that looks like. Be the first and foremost for me.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, he's one of those guys that I think everybody's a little jealous of, but at the same time, because he didn't put up gaudy yards, I think he flies a little bit under the radar. But the guy was tied for 8th in touchdowns in the league on a team that, I mean, kind of struggled a little bit receiving wise to catch touchdowns. And so I think, as the pressure gets off onto other people, hopefully Trey McBride, for instance, I think there's a real chance he's going to evolve past that to be even more dominant in the red zone. Do you see him, like, I think Mike Evans and a couple other guys were up in 13 touchdowns on the season. I mean, do you see him ending up kind of in that zone towards the end of the season? Where do you see that?
So moving into his second year, Marvin Harrison Jr. really needed to bulk up, quite frankly. And that's what a lot of analysts and experts and former wide receivers said about him was, he just needs to be able to kind of bully other these corners a little bit, because he was big enough to do that to the college level guys, but these pros have techniques that are even bigger, and they've already kind of hit their man body stuff. And they're you can't just do that automatically just because of natural gifts. Not to suggest he wasn't working hard, but this was an extra step he needed to do. So it looks like he's done those things, and you combine that with, he's come out and said, he came out like week 13 or something last year and said that I think it was actually Kyler came out and said that about week 13 was when the game finally slowed down for him, which maybe is a little bit slower than a lot of guys are hoping. Some guys it's year 2 or year 3, but Malik Neighbors seemed like the game was slow in week 2. So, we can get a little jealous of things like that, but I'm optimistic for year 2. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Me too. Well, what else is exciting out on the Cardinals frontier here?
Well, like on the other side of the ball, like that, statistically, in certain ways, you could say our defense really wasn't that bad last year. We didn't, we allowed second fewest points in the division, I think. And
very
good pack for the NFL. It really wasn't terrible. But if you watch the games, you could just see these vulnerabilities where we would get sacks, but if we weren't getting a sack, we were not getting anywhere near that quarterback. I mean, our sack leader last year had 5 or 5.5 as Zaven Collins. And so I'm excited to see we brought in a lot of guys, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, Josh Sweat, of course, being the more premier signing. We drafted Walter Nolan, year 2 of Darius Robinson. And we've got these other guys. Like, we've got this much more promising, I hesitate to use the word stable, but people get the idea, like a committee of pass rushers that should be more effective this year. And I'm excited to see what kind of a difference that can make, both up front and then the chain reaction effect that can have for the secondary. So that's actually very close to being the thing I'm the most excited about, but I can't help it with Marvin. So he's everyone's favorite right now.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the lineage thing there, which is just a fun story, right? He's very flashy. Who doesn't like that? Now, it'll be interesting to see the defense. It really was almost perplexing last season looking at that division, how close all the teams really played in many regards. Like the point differential is not. It's really not a bad team. And now it'll be interesting to see. You've got this new pass rush. How does that all play out with like the return of Christian McCaffrey? Because it's not just pass rush. Calais is such a factor that you have to calculate against run as well. So Christian, how does he play into all of that? Sam Darnold, which is a different look, I think, in that division. So I'm very excited to see where all that goes. It's a neat grouping of front guys in particular, for sure. But yeah, what about some of the younger guys on the team that you guys picked up? Y'all had a fun draft, and that was where your draft was kind of centric, at least your early draft picks, right, on the defensive side of the ball. How do you see them playing in?
Yeah, most of our draft was on the defensive side this year, which is good. I mean, it's like they knew the assignment going into the offseason. The top two guys, Walter Nolan and I just lost his name. The corner,
Will Johnson.
Will Johnson.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's why I got you here. Yeah, Will Johnson. They both look like they could be early starters, early and often.
Okay.
We're not quite as thin at defensive line as we were last year. So Walter Nolan is struggling with something of a minor-ish, is what I'm understood. It's what I'm led to understand. Calf strain. And hopefully that's fleeting. And by, let's say, week 6 or 7, he can really get in there and make a difference. But I'm hoping they can ease him in. And with Dalvin Tomlinson and Calais Campbell and such in front of him, he won't need to start week 1 or we're dead kind of a thing. So, but Will Johnson looks like he's going to walk in and be CB1 or CB2, which is fantastic because it's not where we are the most, it's not where we have the most depth. So we're excited for them.
Yeah.
The other rookies we drafted, I'm optimistic for several of them, but I'm kind of giving 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round guys a year. You can sit and I will not be disappointed if you don't turn into Khalil Mack in year 1. So, yeah, they should be. It'll be very interesting, though.
We talk regularly about how challenging corner is for a first-year player to come in. I feel like I think we've had that discussion so many times where we both, I think, agree that it's harder for a corner to come in the league and be productive than it is for a wide receiver to come in the league and be productive. And they both have their challenges, but that first year of experience, it helps them acclimate to the speed and all of that. So I'll be very interested. It's exciting that Will Johnson has, let's say, outplayed the competition on the team to put himself in a position to get that early start, because that, it's, as we've already discussed, it's a tough division. So you need all parts to be working together. You upgrade your front, you still need the back to be participating in that. So, okay, that sounds good. Any other key things on the excited part?
Well, the one last thing is we keep hearing that a guy that I really like the way he is, it's a running back's Trey Benson. He's technically our number 2, but a lot of people have suggested that he's moved up in a way. Not that he's the 1 now over James Conner, but more that they're like a 1A, 1B kind of thing. If last year it was 90-10 James Conner to Trey Benson, this year it might be more like 65-35 or 60-40, if that makes any sense to anyone listening. Where James Conner is still the lead guy. But as he gets older, they may not want him to be taking 20 touches a game. And Trey Benson is still super young. I think he's like 22. He may be 23 now. I don't know when his birthday is. But he's a super young guy, and he's been learning. So I'm excited to see what he can do with a larger workload. I think at some point, I say again because I've touched on this before, I am not wishing injury on anyone, obviously not my own player. But at some point he's going to get his chance. James Conner has missed some time in every season he's ever played, even if it's just a game or two. And I think Trey Benson will get a chance to come in and play and get a real workload of 20 or 25 snaps. And it could be really interesting to see what he can do when given really given the reins, and what we can look forward to long-term in the future, because James Conner doesn't have as many years left in the tank as he once did. So that's the last one I'd say of things that I'm really looking forward to this year. And I don't know when I'm going to get to see that, but I'm confident I'll get to see it at some point.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. In my mind, I always feel like he's a smaller guy. I don't know why. Just in my mind, every time I think of Trey Benson, and I think some of it's his athleticism, is that he's kind of slippery. He moves, I feel like, a lot like you would think of Janty or somebody like that moving, but I forget how big he is at 6'2" something, 220, I would guess. But he's a bigger guy, which is cool because it's an interesting compliment to James Conner, who no one wants to tackle in the third quarter already. So, yeah, I'll be very interested to see that as well. Now, that's a lot of positives. That's a lot of fun things. I'm excited as a secondary Cardinals fan. I know a lot of other Cards fans would agree. Those are the fun things. What are the concerns? What are the things, maybe gaps left open or just other vulnerabilities you can see? What are the concerns going into this season as you see them?
Well, I'm optimistic for this season, as one tends to be at this time of year. But there is the concern is kind of wrapped up in a funny idea. It's the make or break aspect of this year, not just for Kyler Murray, but for other people as well. You know, for Kyler, there are so many paths to break this year. You know, if he gets a long-term injury, I think that's long-term being he's out for the season.
Sure.
If he tears is the key word, something. Then he's probably done. That'll probably be the last time we see him in a Cardinals uniform. If he has a bad season, you know, I've talked about +3, -3 in the offseason, whereas if he takes his stats from last year being like 26-11 and he goes 29-8 instead, 29 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions, well, that's a pretty darn good year. I think Lamar Jackson won the MVP with 29-9 a couple years back. So that'd be a great year. But if he goes the other direction with it, suddenly he's 23-14, I think he's done. I think they decide this guy's not worth $45-50 million a year. We're certainly not looking to extend him. So there are quite a few break scenarios, and I'm a little scared of that. Like we're in a long dry stretch. 2021 seems like a long time ago. It's only 4 years, but it feels like a long time ago when we had some hope that things were going to go somewhere. And now suddenly we're all right, it's time to go somewhere again. And if you're telling me that after this, hey, where we're going is back to the draft to get a rookie quarterback, great. That's wonderful. So the concern is that I might be looking at that during this season. And, you know, if halfway through it, he's got 10 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions, 9 interceptions, I'm like, well, I know what we're heading toward. So that is probably chiefest of my concerns. For some people, that's the cheapest of things they're excited for because they've been ready to move up with Kyler for like 5 years now. But for me, I'm more of a concern. So,
yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense to me. And y'all really, I don't. When I look at the Cardinals, I don't see y'all as having anyone in your group there that's like a heir apparent at all, right? I don't think there's anybody there who, if we see any of your, it's Brissett, right? Brissett and Tune behind him, right? So, if we're seeing them, that's a problem. I think the best thing about seeing them as playing anytime, and as a Dallas fan, this is kind of how we lived last year, is you're now surviving by running game a lot. So, I think there's a lot of things positioned for the Cards to do well this year. I hope they do, because it is funny how much Kyler has become very representative of the Cardinals in many ways, and I think it'd be neat for him to kind of finish out there. Yeah. So for sure, I think that'd be interesting. What other concerns are? Oh, and you had mentioned the coaches as well, right? Were part of that. Is that what you were either said or alluding to, as far as other people who might be on the hook here?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, and it's true. So some of these make or break scenarios, where if Kyler's having a solid year, but the defense still isn't working, or if Kyler actually looks pretty good, but just other things are clearly the problem. I think Drew Petzing's name comes up within the Cardinals community quite a bit, and there's some doubts with him. He runs a phenomenal run game, but pretty much universally agreed upon is that he runs a phenomenal run game. James Conner, to me, is not a top 5, top 7 running back. He's maybe top 12 or something like that. I could probably put 11 to 12 guys in front of him. And I love James Conner, respect, but I don't know that he's elite, especially when I got to watch guys like Saquon and Derrick Henry and, so on, Bijan Robinson, these kind of guys. So he runs an amazing run game, but his pass game, especially as it relates to the wide receivers, has not impressed thus far. We're 2 years in, and we really haven't seen that blow us away. There's going to be some concern after this year or during this year if that doesn't ascend quite a bit. I think the entire team would have to implode for Jonathan Gannon to be really at risk. Like we'd have to drop back down and go 3-14 or something like that, and they might think, well, never mind. but that seems highly unlikely. So unlikely that I'm not actually worried about that one.
Sure.
But for Drew Petzing, I think if the defense really steps up and we become a top 10 unit, and then the offense doesn't evolve at all, and it doesn't necessarily seem like it's Kyler, there are scenarios where you'd be like, where it doesn't really look like Kyler's the problem. It's just things aren't working. We've talked before about how, like, if one wide receiver can't get open, then okay, you've got one wide receiver that doesn't understand route running in the NFL. But if none of them can get open, then you've got a play caller or a scheme design problem. And so there are versions of that. Changing out offensive coordinators could be a good thing for the team long term. Could make us more viable. But any big change like that, especially if it should happen mid-season, which I think is particularly unlikely, that would be a concern. That would be a concern for this season specifically, that would just derail the season. But hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. So Kyler and really the futures of people, if it's not even if they don't succeed some, it's like if they don't succeed enough. I get that, where it's like, can we push over the line? What other concerns might be out there?
Well, the other big one is kind of, I guess, adjacent. Maybe it's just whatever. Anyways, another issue is the way we've closed out seasons. We have a terrible, terrible pattern in how we have closed out seasons in the entire Kyler Murray era. We are most of the time, we're 2-5 for the last 7 games of the season. I think I discovered that I had misread 2021, and we were actually only 2-4 for the last 6 games. So 3-4. That's there we go. And then in 2022 we were 0-7, but Kyler wasn't playing for those last 7 games because he got hurt, I think, in the first of those 7 games. Not important. The point is, we have not closed out seasons well in the Kyler Murray era. Some fans had some hope in some twisted way that was a Cliff Kingsbury problem. Well, he's gone, and they, the Commanders did just fine to close out last year. In fact, they went to the NFC Championship, if memory serves.
Good point.
Not jealous at all. But it is still a problem, and we have got to get past that. I was thinking the other day, to give some weird math problem, I hope that this comes out correctly, I would rather this year go 5-5 in the first 10 games, and then 5-2 to, is that right? Yeah, 5-2 to close things out.
Yeah.
That's 10-7. Then going 10-0 to start out the season, and 2-5. So that'd be 2 fewer losses, or two more wins that I would rather not have, if it could just mean I finish out the season better. So I know that's weird, and maybe I should just want to win more games, but I want to head toward the playoffs with some momentum, God forbid. So it is I know there's a weird set of numbers I just threw out there, but I'm hoping that it made sense to people.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I just want to end the season on some kind of positive note. So we'll just see how that goes. But
because if you limp into the playoffs, it's like, as a Dallas fan, are you just getting to the playoffs so that you can go home? There's something to be said about making the playoffs under any circumstances, but you want to be in an upward trend. I get what you're saying there for sure.
I guess my last concern for the Cardinals is something I've touched on as a potential. I think it's a positive, but there's some part of my brain that's thinking, what if it's not? And that's the continuity on offense. So we made all these changes to the defense. So we brought in all these players, and we drafted, high draft picks going into the defense with Walter Nolan and such. On the offense right now, it looks like all 11 guys that were supposed to start last year in week 1, we'll have on the roster this year in week 1. Yeah. And again, my brain tells me that should be a positive. The cohesion, the continuity, all that noise, particularly on the offensive line, but everywhere, should be a benefit. So that's great. But some concern is that, what if it's not? What if it's just the same old thing, and we run it back with the same group, or even worse, because it's the same thing as last year? Other teams have figured out the things that we don't do well, and they're just like, well, it's the same guys doing the same thing. We're just going to shut that down because we know what they're going to do. So that may call back to Drew Petzing a little bit, and a bit to Kyler Murray. It's like, you'll need to be able to adjust. Yes, you've got the same toolkit, but you need to not just do what you did last year, or we'll get the same result we got last year. So I trust that they're smart enough to not run headlong into that outcome. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't just a little bit worried about that. So I think this is some of these concerns, I'll admit, seem kind of far-fetched. I think it's partially we've waited a long time for this season, and we're just a couple of weeks away now. So I'm ready for those last 16, 17 days we're at now to get here. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's so many exciting pieces on your offense that are young pieces in particular. Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, even, and Marvin Harrison. I mean, there's so many great things going on there. Like you said, hopefully they can kind of keep heading on an upward trend, which I think is obviously the expectation with how much additional effort y'all put into adding pieces. It's like, hey, we think we're good here already. So I think that'll be good, and we're excited to get into that and see them here. In, like you said, just a couple weeks, we'll be at game 1.
Yep, I'm ready. We get a nice warm-up game, hopefully. Oh man, I probably just jinxed this so hard against the Saints. And some people are like, "Oh, they're going to be the worst team of the year," and I'm just like, "Yeah, I remember how they started out last year." So I'm a little scared of them. I shouldn't be. We're going to delete that part of the video just so we probably won't. I just got to own it. But yeah, man. Well, this has been fun. It's been fun. We should get into the Cowboys soon, very soon, in fact.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. Well, everyone, that'll be wrap this up. This has been a new thing that we're doing, but we want to get into our teams a bit more. We've talked about the NFL at large, and we want to get into our teams a bit more as we get into the season. And so pretty regularly we'll be, especially through the season, we'll be talking about the Cowboys and the Cardinals. And we're going to have some more fun with that. And I hope you all will too. We're trying to get up to 100 subscribers by the start of the 2025 NFL season. Again, thank the Lord, it's just like 17 days away. I guess it's less from the first game, but we're just trying to get up a little closer. So we'd appreciate anyone who would subscribe and join us again sometime. And if you're a Seahawks fan, I guess you're welcome too. But take it easy on us. I know we haven't beat you in 3 years. But yeah, and to anyone who's already subscribed and joined us multiple times, we really do appreciate you. And we look forward to talking about football again many times in the future. So until next time, everyone have a fantastic day.